Diamond P Sports presents And They Walked Away, Volume 4. Well, the hits just keep on coming. Hello, everyone. I'm Steve Evans, and welcome to the latest helmet-hammering, bone-jarring thrill ride featuring motorsport's most perilous moments. I mean, we've got all your favorites. Drag racing, stock cars, sprints, monster trucks, and for this fourth in Diamond P's Classic Series, something brand new. For the first time, we're going to show you 200-mile-an-hour unlimited hydroplanes and monster 50-foot offshore boats as they challenge the liquid racetrack. As always, we salute the vehicle constructors, the motorsports organizations, and the rescue crews who make it possible for these competitors to indeed walk away. Okay, tighten up that chin strap, cinch down those belts. Let's get started. Roll tape, Stan. Let's start our parade of motorsports greatest hits with NHRA Top Fuel action. In 1993, two of the true kings of the sport met in the final of the Cheap Auto Parts Winter Nationals in Pomona. Kenny Bernstein in the far lane faced five-time Winston Top Fuel champ Joe Amato. Kenny has won a lot of races, set a lot of records, but nothing could prepare him for this. The engine blows, the left rear slick blows, Kenny careens behind Amato into the rail, over the rail. Amato's crew not yet aware of the catastrophe that has befallen Kenny Bernstein. Raw fuel pumps out of the ripped lines, no fire. In moments, the NHRA Safety Safari was on the scene, spraying down the wreck to cool things off and extricate Kenny Bernstein from the still intact cockpit. The chassis held up amazingly well. Now, don't get me wrong, slamming into anything at any direction at the speeds of an NHRA Top Fuel car is going to get your attention. But thanks to the sound construction of the car chassis, and believe it or not, even the design of the rail that the car impacted on, Kenny Bernstein was able to walk away from this terrifying crash. What's amazing here is how the engine breaks away from the chassis and tumbles down the track. It is engineered to do just that. Now there you see the engine rolling clear of the wreck, and Kenny's still strapped into his cockpit as the rest of the car tumbles and slides to a stop, while unburnt fuel gushes to answer the call of a power plant that had long since departed. I must admit, at the time, I didn't know what to expect. But when we got to the scene, we were surprised to find a battered and shaken Kenny Bernstein on his feet being examined by medical personnel. Kenny, you are indeed okay?
I'm okay, Steve. Tell everybody I'm fine. The bell rung a little bit. Kind of feel like a NASCAR Cup car driver here at Atlanta, but not too bad.
Kenny, what is a Nathan Cup car? I'll tell you, I was just glad to see that he could talk. And one thing for sure, the safety standards built into the racing machines have proven their worth once again. And it saved yet another competitor from disaster. Later that same season at the 93 Gator Nationals in Gainesville, Florida, veteran Jack Ostrander in the far lane during qualifying got another taste of the Top Fuel catastrophe. This is a weird one. In a fraction of a second, Jack went from heads-up full speed ahead racing to looking backwards at his engine and wing. I have seen a lot of drag racing incidents, but this one I have to call just plain weird. The trouble came as he approached the lights at the end of the run. Ostrander's car appears to buckle, watch this, and snap right behind the cockpit. Right there. You know, the power generated by these 4-second nitro rockets is sometimes more than a match from the materials from which they're constructed. The smallest weakness can lead to big-time trouble as you approach 300 miles an hour. From this angle, you can see the car literally snap in two. Unbelievable. Now it tosses the front end to the side and smashes it into the retaining wall. The impact ruptures the fuel tank in the nose of the car, igniting nitromethane fuel on the spot, but luckily Ostrander was spun completely around backwards and left the fireball in his wake. Thanks to the safety precautions taken by both the driver and the vehicle constructor, the fragile human body was once again saved from fire, high-G impact, and flying debris. Jack would race again, but the same could not be said for this machine. Having finished less than a burnout away from the 92 championship and having set a record low ET of 4.78 in the first race of 93, Corey McClanahan was on the fast track of Top Fuel success as he left the line in Rockingham, until he was derailed by an ugly twist of fate. Corey was thrown into the wall and hurtled upside down and backward down the track as fire engulfed the wreckage of the independent Mack Attack dragster. The Flaming Hulk came to a merciful halt right at the feet of the waiting Safety Safari, who quickly extinguished the fire. But as the ruptured engine bled hot, scalding oil, young Corey lay trapped upside down in the wreckage. This was a horrible incident. And it all started as the struts supporting the wing over the Mack Attack dragster collapsed just as the car was approaching the finish line. With the wing gone and no downforce being exerted on the rear end, Corey just flat lost control of the car. In this case, breaking off the rear wheel assembly, cracking the engine block, igniting an oil fire, and flying out of control into the retaining wall. Now, the impact with the wall breaks the rear end free from the rest of the car, which continues to streak like a terrible comet down the track, with Corey strapped into the cockpit, engulfed in flame. Corey suffered burns on his hands and face in that fiery inferno and did miss the next 4 races, but he was back, unfortunately not for the championship chase. The 1993 Top Fuel Trail of Terror next led to Topeka, Kansas, where another young Nitro pilot, this time Doug Herbert, suffered a devastating crash during qualifying. Herbert's nightmare began well into a high-speed run as the left rear tire explodes on the hot racetrack, sending his uncontrollable car into a hard left and slamming into the wall at nearly full speed. Even after the first impact with the wall, Herbert's car had enough momentum to boomerang back across the track, snap the rear of the frame off just behind the cockpit, and slam into the opposite wall. The airborne front end of the car landed on the outside of the wall, slammed the ground hard, and tumbled through a nearby scaffold. Now, that scaffold was unoccupied and may have served as kind of a catch net for Herbert. It could have been worse. The highest wall in all of drag racing, and still, Herbert hurdles it. Amazingly, Doug suffered only a concussion from the incident and returned to race in the next event in Denver. Needless to say, this car did not make that trip. It's drag racing at its dirtiest. Mud bog racing, a wild and woolly open-wheel run which have brung grassroots motorsports competition. And believe me, it's an all-out gritty exercise conducted on an unpredictable surface that, well, it's mud. All right, let's get the dirty work underway from Lima, Ohio and the Spring Nationals. Now, this is Tony Farrell and his Blue Ribbon Bandit. He's competing in the paddle tire event. They're called paddle tires because of the vulcanized scoops on the rear wheels. Off they go. And unfortunately, Farrell's paddles seem to be heading on downstream, leaving him up the river without a, well, you know. Now, it looks like the left rear tire is still racing, and as a matter of fact, turned in a respectable time as it headed for the garage area. See ya, Tony. The driver was unhurt in this incident except for his pride. After having his rear wheels heisted mid-race, you can be sure that the Blue Ribbon Bandit's owner will tighten down those lug nuts with an extra twist next time. You know, wild things always happen during mud races in Sedalia, Missouri. And Doug Marsh in the aptly named Hard Times Jeep found out just how wild it can get. Marsh in the near lane gets pitched out of the mud bog at full speed and proceeds to pay the price. Ooh, that hurt. He was okay, though. Now watch the left side of your screen. What really happened was he got out of shape at the end of the run, then hooked a rut and simply tumbled right out of the course.
Doug, it looked to me like you were just making a straight run. What caused it to let go like that?
I don't know. I was just getting ready to let out when I come out at the end, and all at once it just spun sideways, started rolling.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. It's happened before. It'll happen again. But I ain't quitting.
We didn't think you would. A tough breed, these mud racers, and Jim McConville here is no exception. Now, Jim's a real hell-bent-for-leather kind of guy. But here in Sedalia, he and his Mr. Four-Wheeler machine had problems as they faced off against Gary Payne and the Mud Tough Jeep. With superchargers on these motors, they make tremendous horsepower. The race only lasts a couple of seconds, but damn near anything can happen. Just like Marsh, McConville's trouble started as he exited the 180-foot mud pit. Mr. Four-Wheeler takes him on a punishing tumble on the hard pack of the Missouri State Fairgrounds. The roll bar saves another one. He was just fine. Now, in replay, you'll see the problem these mud racers face. McConville has to oversteer to compensate for the tremendous torque that the 500 cubic inch blown big block Chevy generates. As he exits a pit and gets off the gas, it's almost like reversing the torque and tosses the vehicle into a roll. I think everyone knew that Jim McConville was indeed okay as he walked away from the wreckage of the Mr. Four-Wheeler wearing his lucky hat. I'd get rid of that thing. At the 1994 Spring Nationals, Rodney Covington in the far lane was ready to go all out against the four-time champ Tom Martin when all hell broke loose. The Mud Rat went from a $70,000 highly specialized race machine to a worthless pile of junk in seconds, leaving Covington dazed in the overturned cockpit. Woo. As we take another look, Covington on the right of your screen seems to be fighting to keep the Mudder in the ruts. As he exits the pit, right about there, he rolls up and over a berm that puts him into a hard right. As Rodney tries to steer out, he barrel rolls and ends up biting the dust, big time. Covington was transported to the local hospital and was pronounced okay, at least physically. His Mud Rat buggy took the worst of the incident and saved Rodney from serious injury.